Now, a UN summit on the global financial crisis starts today, attended by 126 countries and 14 heads of government. The Venezuelan President, Hugo Chavez, and the Bolivian leader, Evo Morales, both outspoken critics of the US, are among those attending. This is the first time rich and poor nations have met to discuss policies to combat the economic downturn. Here's our UN correspondent, Trevelyan.
Queens in New York, where many Mexican workers wire money to relatives back home. The US recession means they're earning less and sending less home. One of the ways in which the financial crisis that began here is affecting the developing world. 6 miles away at the United Nations, where rich and poor nations are gathering to discuss the crisis, the President of the UN General Assembly says it's time for the developed world to help those who are suffering.
You cannot continue to have the vast majority of the Earth's population, the consequence of the wrong decisions, greedy decisions taken by a few.
In the corridors of the United Nations, diplomats from the developing world have been arguing that they need a stimulus plan too. They've called for greater UN control over the IMF and the World Bank. Rich nations have fought against giving the UN a say in financial institutions.
Negotiations have been going on until the early hours of the morning as rich and poor countries try and agree on a common approach to the global financial crisis. Developing nations feel this is not a mess of their making and they want the developed world to help them out. The question is whether they'll get that help.
The tentative agreement, which leaders will endorse here, is short on specifics. A shame, say observers.
More people are being made hungry, and then very soon we won't have the money for imports of food and other things. So immediate action has to be taken. And this conference has missed that opportunity.
But one of the chief negotiators says what's been agreed is meaningful.
Basically the recognition that the developing countries should have a greater voice. One of the ways of doing it was this conference.
Out in Queens, Mexican workers are finding it tough to wire home as much money as they used to. Whatever does come out of the UN summit won't be providing the immediate help they'd like. Trevelyan, BBC News, New York.
Now, it's an important day in the United States.